Okay.
Perfect. Hi, Amanda.
Terry,
Yes.
thank you for coming along today. Thank you firstly because you gave me lots of lovely help on how to do a presentation, which I have yet to do yet, as that was a while ago when you gave me. I'm doing it on Monday morning, so watch this space. Hopefully, I will.
Holding thumbs for you all day.
Thank you. So, how are you?
I'm great. I'm very, very happy it's Friday afternoon. And after the Zoom, I'm shutting down and going into weekend mode. So,
Excellent. Good. Well, the weekend starts here. We're just having fun. We're not getting too serious. And I just wanted to chat to you, find out more about what you do. You've had quite an interesting background, so share with people all the things that you have done and what you continue to do today and etc.
right. So, let's go back to the beginning. No. Okay. So, when I left school, I went to university and I did a Bachelor of Commerce, mainly because I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. And in my final year, after our half year exams, I was fed up and I had enough, and so I left university, which my parents have never forgiven me for in any case. I had so short a time to go to get my degree, and I wanted to travel, and but long and short of it all is I went overseas, I did all my traveling and playing around, and I came back when I was 30, and I had this thing in my head like unfinished business,
Yeah.
unfinished.
Did you
And I
not
went,
feel that before then?
no, I was too busy having fun actually.
Great.
And so I came back to university when I was working full time. I was older than all the students, than most of the lecturers. I was paying for myself because before my parents were paying. So, of course, I wasn't going to fail with all that pressure on. So, finally, I got my degree. And from the first day until the last day, it was actually 10 years. And when we went up for that big thing where they hand you your degree and the guy's got his little cap on, and he looked at my student number, which was your starting year, and when he gave it to me, he said, eventually. And the whole hall was laughing. I was like, well, at least I got it.
Yeah.
But when I dropped out and I wanted to go overseas, my dad, who's very clever, said, I'll pay for an overseas ticket for you if you just go to this IT training course. It's only 4 months. And I was like, okay, well, that's one way to earn a ticket. And I went on a COBOL training course, and absolutely, it was like coming home. It was
Ah.
like music to my ears. And I loved that pure, clean logic. I loved everything about programming. And that started a 30, 40-year journey in IT, which I would never have even, it didn't even cross my mind.
Mm.
And that was before computers were, I mean, I'm talking deep in last century, you understand. And and so I literally from that, I became, after I came back, I became a junior programmer and worked my way up to be an IT manager. And then when I was IT manager, anytime there was a problem, it was always IT's fault. It's just the given law of the universe. And then I investigate and I'm going, do you know, this company spends so much time on IT, on hardware and on software, but so little on people development because 90% of the time it was a training thing. And that's where I actually got into training and decided and learned that you need well structured, well organized training things so that people can do their jobs. You can't shout at them if you haven't trained them yet.
Yeah.
So from that point on, I went on a whole bunch of train the trainer courses, how to design courses, how to write manuals, blah, 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 blah. And then I fell in love with training. And I discovered that I, I've got a deep technology understanding, but I can explain it to people in English like.
Yeah.
So that kind of went on for years that I was in IT. And it was very, very deep in my 50s, actually, when I discovered talking, speaking, public speaking, because I had absolutely refused to talk. It was different from training. I can stand up and train people, but to stand up and talk, I didn't do it at my parents' anniversary, at my best friend's 40th party. I was always like, it's not for me. I'm nervous. I'm sweaty. I feel sick at the thought of it. And then I was, I was going to say forced, but yeah, I landed up doing a talk at a funeral, which was unplanned and it was horrible. And I did so badly. And I decided, like, in that moment,
Oh,
I will never, ever, ever be in this position again.
yeah.
So, with my A personality, I then embarked on a whole lot of public speaking courses, professional, courageous, joined Toastmasters. And it took me about 2 years for not that the fear ever goes, but to become a competent speaker.
Right.
And then once again, I discovered I had a knack for helping other people to do speaking. So that's kind of brought me to here. I do IT training, a lot of IT training still. Microsoft certified trainer, Excel. I am a self-confessed Excel nerd. I love it. And if I can't sleep at
I
night
love
and it's
it
2 o'clock,
too.
it's so nice. I watch Excel TikToks at 2 o'clock in the morning when I can't. And then I also say that I'm on like a one-woman mission to rid the world of death by PowerPoint, because I go to so many presentations at corporates, at networking events that are dire. And
Yeah.
I look on Zoom in the gallery, everyone is, the second someone's doing their presentation, everyone's on their phone. And then I feel so sorry for the person because they've been stressed and spent time and energy doing it, and
Yeah.
everyone's ignoring them in any case,
Yeah.
which is how I kind of got into presentation skills training. Um, and I'm also a TEDx coach, which I really love. And this year in Cape Town, it's TEDx Youth, which means I'm working with, so their youth is under 30, which is quite nice. So I'm working with young adults. And I just think if you learn to speak in your 20s or your teens, you're going to become a leader because your voice is going to be heard. Do you know what I mean? It's such an amazing skill.
Yeah.
And also in Africa, where women's voices need to be heard.
Yeah.
Um, so that was my kind of main career. And then, of course, I had a little few diversions. When I turned 50, I had a rush of blood to the head, and I decided I wanted to do a round the world trip. I'd had that dream actually for so many years, and it was like I was too busy climbing up the corporate ladder, um, living my best life. And all of a sudden I woke up one day and I'm like, I'm about to turn 50. I'm a single mom. I've got a 9-year-old daughter. And also looking at my friends, they were all getting divorced, getting cancer. It was like a shift and I just thought, if I don't, I must do this now. And I couldn't afford it. My daddy didn't have any money to give me, and I never won the lotto. So I just decided to sell everything, and literally sold the house we were living in. We sold all the clothes, the whole kitchen, and until in the end we were left with this like little pile of money and 2 little backpacks. And my daughter's name is Indigo.
Brave.
So Indigo and I left, and we did 366-day around the world trip. We which is a year and a day, and we did very slow travel. We started in America just because it was at Disney. That was the 9-year-old's dream. Then we spent some time in Canada with friends and Seattle. And then after that, we kind of just went into the absolute unknown. Didn't know a soul in South America, didn't know the language. So we started off in Ecuador, went to luckily kids Spanish lessons, because Indigo picked it up and I was just like, oh no, speak to the child. And so we did Galapagos Islands, 3 weeks on the Galapagos Islands, which was
3 weeks. Wow.
was like living in a David Attenborough movie.
Oh, it's wonderful. I've been as well. Yeah. One of
And
my
also,
most magical days.
we weren't on a ship, so we stayed on not Isabella, Santa Cruz
Yeah,
Island.
yeah.
And I had bicycle. It was just amazing. And then from there we went to deep Amazon.
Oh,
Terrifying, terrifying, terrifying. I'm glad I've done it. It's ticked off. never again.
Okay.
You know, we flew for 4 hours in a small plane, and then we caught a ferry on the main Amazon, which is massive. Then we went on a motorboat, then like a little boat, and then finally in a little dugout. And we got to a place that had no electricity, no comms, no English. And that jungle is so thick. You know, if you were 2 meters from me and everything was dangerous and sweaty and cockroach in our room one day that was as big as my hand, and the tarantulas were bigger than your head. And oh
Oh
my,
yeah.
it was
The
great. And my
snakes,
daughter,
the size of their snakes are unbelievable.
oh, and Indigo caught a piranha one day when she was 9. So it was like the highlight of her life because you've always read about piranhas. And so we did it, and I'm glad we did it. And then we went to Peru and to Machu Picchu, obviously, which
Yeah.
was amazing. And then the best part of the trip, we went to Easter Island for Christmas.
Oh wow.
It was it. I wish the whole world could go there. It's just such a beautiful, mystical.
Oh
You know
yeah.
that those giant heads, the
Yeah.
Moya
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
their backs to the sea. So we had 3 weeks there as well. Um,
3 weeks. Wasn't that too much? No? Did it feel like a lot or not?
I could have stayed there for 3 months. For honestly, I just fell in love with that island lifestyle.
Isn't it
There
quite small?
It's tiny. There's only about 4,500 people living there. You can walk around the island probably in a day. There's only 4 roads, but there's all those mysteries and those legends, and it's volcanic. So there's lava tunnels that go for miles underground, and oh no, it was amazing. I took so many photographs. So Easter Island was amazing. Then we went to Chile. Argentina, we went from the top, the geyser falls, all the way down to the ice fields, and went hiking on glaciers. And let me tell you,
Yeah.
from Africa, hiking on a glacier is like,
Yes. Yeah.
and then from there, we flew for on a 36-hour flight, dreadful, all the way to Thailand. And in another rush of blood to the head, I decided we'd do Tai Chi lessons. Oh my God. So we signed up for 5 weeks. You had to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning, do it for
Ooh.
2 hours, and 4 o'clock in the afternoon and do it for 2 hours. It was beautiful and amazing, but the teacher had no sense of humor. You had to be there, you had to commit, and it was serious, but it was actually a beautiful experience.
And do
And
you
then
use that today?
I don't. I've been trying to find it in Cape Town actually because I loved it. I love the whole mystical, the gentle movements, the whole kind of ritual of it. I wasn't particularly good at it because I'm not sporty or well coordinated, but
Yeah.
I still enjoyed it inside my own mind. And then we went to Malaysia, Cambodia, Vietnam, and then we came home. So that was a major adventure. And which is also why I got into public speaking because people always wanted to hear about the trip.
Yes.
Um, so that's the story I tell most when I do public speaking to groups or to companies or whatever. Is this? It's more around the lessons I learned traveling around the world, not just the
Yeah.
fact that we had quite a good holiday.
Yeah.
Uh, and then when we came back, because I'd sold my house in Cape Town, we moved to a tiny little village that had a population of 76. So we made it 78. And I had a derelict house there. It took us a year to fix. It was an old house. It had no bathrooms, no kitchen. So we did a lot of work, lot of work. And then I opened a guest house and I decided to open a coffee shop because I didn't really cook. And the guest house did very well because we just traveled for a year. So we knew everything that was needed. And then the coffee shop kind of morphed to breakfast, to lunch, to dinner, to events. And then all of a sudden I was running like a fully fledged restaurant with people booking months in advance.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, how weird is life? Who would have thought? And I actually learned to cook. All the farmers' wives came to teach me how to cook the lamb from that area because it's tough. I Googled everything. If any guests came and they were chefs, I'm like, come into my kitchen and help me. And then we won like TripAdvisor Best Restaurant for 4 years in a row.
What?
Um,
You
and
don't do things by halves.
it was amazing. I absolutely loved it. I loved that interaction. It was like traveling almost because
Yeah,
you were people from
yeah,
different countries. But then, like, I looked at my daughter one day and she was like 14, turning 15. And, it was fine in a small village for me, but, she needed bright lights, big city boys, school.
yeah.
She hadn't gone to school. She didn't go to school when we traveled, and when we came back for the next 4 years, she didn't go to school either because she worked in the restaurant.
Yeah.
But she had other life skills. She could work a credit card machine. She could give people a tour of the village. She used to make the milkshakes, the salads. She waitressed on the table. So she's had a checkered school career, um, through no fault of her own, probably
Well,
just
I mean, what an amazing upbringing. Fantastic. She's learnt all the things that actually you need to learn in life rather than the things that you probably don't need to learn.
and she'll sit and have a conversation with you about the subway in New York versus the subway in somewhere else, and I'm like, what? So that's when we moved to Cape Town, and then that's when I really got back into training a lot, which takes us until today. I'm in Cape Town, kind of my third career as a trainer. I do cooking as a hobby now and make cakes and nice things, but not really as an income generator. But
Yeah,
I have this little dream about opening a little coastal restaurant somewhere beautiful later on.
lovely.
So that is my life in a nutshell.
Great.
Not
So how
a
did you
small
get to,
nutshell.
was it COVID then that got you to be and part of doing other lots of networking in, you know, you're
Yeah,
now in South Africa, so and I'm in England, so
yeah,
we wouldn't have met presumably because of COVID.
100%. Because all my training had been live, presentation, public speaking, and then when COVID hit and everything fell apart, and I, I was his. I've been work. Luckily for me, I'd used Zoom for about 4 years before, just because I
Yeah,
was in the IT field. Um, and so for the first year of COVID, I had a little side hustle running Zooms for big corporates because their staff didn't know it yet. And I did quite a lot of AGMs for NGOs and non, no, no, no. So that was a nice helping, bridging income while I was finding my feet again.
yeah,
And then, yeah, I just discovered that training works just as well on Zoom as it does live.
yeah,
Um, and then, yeah, when things were like really tough, that's when I decided I'm going to look outside of South Africa because Zoom opens up the world to you. Like you say, you and I are talking, we
yeah,
would never have met if it
yeah,
wasn't for COVID/Zoom/networking.
yeah,
So I've been networking and getting lots of clients from the UK, which is lovely. So I've got kind of two. I do obviously a lot of South African old clients, do a lot of training, and now I've opened like a new source of revenue, which is amazing.
yeah,
And I think the nicest thing for me about the networking is you do it for business, but you start to make connections with people, and you kind of meet them and think, God, if I lived closer, we'd go for a G&T and we'd have a
yeah,
chat. And it would turn into like a friendship.
yeah,
So the business part has been great, but just connecting with people has been marvelous. I really love that. Like you can meet someone, you have a spark, you can have a chat.
yeah,
um, And I found that amazing. I love
yeah.
that.
I think sometimes networking is quite tough because you're meeting somebody for the first time and everybody's focus naturally is on their business and what they want to sell, and it can become a little less about, well, actually let's make a connection. People forget that really we actually work with people that we want to work with, people, the right people you connect in with, and you feel them and you think, well, actually I quite like to work with that person because I feel like I understand them or connect with them in some way. So I think sometimes some networking can feel a bit, oh God, a bit abrasive, or you know, um,
I must say, I think that's my philosophy is build a relationship first
yeah,
and then think about selling and also give something of value first before you try and givers gain. You give first, not necessarily just to gain, but you give first.
Yeah.
I actually had a networking meeting, I think yesterday, and I was a bit pissed off. Like, I met this woman, and normally for the first time, you just want to chat, like you say,
Yeah.
and see. The second we're on, she's got her PowerPoint out and she's telling me all this, and I just thought, geez, woman, slow down,
Yeah.
let's. I don't even know which country you're in, and what your vibe is.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I like to do the whole chat, because sometimes you can chat for ages and you'll never do business together, but
But
it's
you've,
still
yeah,
it's
it's still
you've got
good.
a connection. You've got
Yeah.
a connection, and they might know someone who needs you, and vice versa.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
me, the business is important, but it's
Yeah.
secondary to building relationships, because we're human and we have to connect.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
and the
well, that's why I particularly enjoy one of the networking groups that I'm in. It's an Affinity Women's Networking Group, because it's full of very much like-minded women who are really not about the big sell. And actually, the group try, and the way they do it is to say we talk about another person in the group who we've just connected with and share what they have told
oh,
us,
that's
rather than, yeah. So it's actually
wow.
much more about giving. We're not, nobody can go there and go, oh yeah, me, because you have to talk about the other person. So
It's
um
amazing,
it means
actually.
that you're then more engaged in listening to what they have to say,
Absolutely.
because you've then got to
Sure.
tell everybody else. Well, you don't have to, but so you have the option to say to other people. So yeah,
I
for
think
me,
that's great.
I think that's a really lovely way of connecting with people.
Sure.
And so yeah, I think it's so important, isn't it, just to feel that connection. For me, I love that, and that's part of why I've been doing these videos with people, because I love to connect in with people, but I love helping people as my passion, as what I do for a living. And I'd love, if people can get business out of watching a video that we're doing, that's even better. It's great, but that's not the ultimate aim. The ultimate aim is to build a connection, to help people to understand another person, another human being better. And who knows, but you might have just inspired somebody to go, do you know what, I might just go and sell my house and go travel around the world, and sod the having to worry about the cost of living crisis that we've got in the UK at the moment, and having to worry about what the gas bill is going to be like and the electricity bill is going to be like. Let's go and live in an island somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and make our fires.
Attractive prospect, I tell you. And another thing, when we traveled very light. My backpack for the whole year weighed 12 kilograms, and Indigo's weighed 8. And there's just something so freeing.
Lovely, isn't it?
We didn't have a set agenda. We'd stay as long as we wanted to.
Yeah.
And once we've had enough, then when we're in this place, we plan the trip to the next place, and you just put your backpack on that is not that heavy,
Yeah.
um, and you just move on. And
Mm.
I think it was probably the only year in my life I had zero stress,
Yeah.
absolutely zero stress. My biggest stress was, where should we eat for lunch,
Yeah.
or should we go to this place or that place?
Yeah. And being ill, I know I did the same. I went for a year as well. I
Oh,
noticed that I wasn't ill, because
um,
because I was on my own, so there was nobody going to be looking out for me. But I
yeah,
didn't pick up colds or anything like that, just simple things, because why would you? You're in this permanent state of, it's not always happy, it's not always
no,
great.
sometimes sometimes you're homesick and you're tired and the
Yeah.
accommodation is there, and
Yeah.
sure, but it's not, it's different from, because your day to day is so different every day.
Absolutely. And you choose. That's the wonderful thing about it, is if you're really not enjoying it, you just go, oh, right, okay, I'll just go to another country today. I mean, it's just like
100%.
it's
100%.
and that, how liberating is that? And it's, how did you find that then when you came home? Because for me, it was really tough coming home.
Well, when we came home, we moved to that small village and started a whole new adventure. So I didn't go back into corporate, into 9 to 5.
Right.
So it didn't feel like a shock. Um, and I was so busy learning how to cook that, yeah, so I didn't really, it just went from one amazing adventure to another amazing adventure. So, oh, tongue, stop. So I didn't. I'm feeling it a bit more now that we've come back to Cape Town and I'm at my desk on my Zoom at 7:30 until 7:30 at night. Now I'm feeling like I've got back into that again. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Sometimes needs must.
absolutely. I've got a daughter who needs to go to university or college or something next year. She's finishing school now, and while I keep dreaming about going to live on like Saint Helena Island, or I've got a friend who works on the cruise ships as a speaker and he entertains people at night. And I said to him, that is my dream job, to speak,
Really?
teach, to travel. I mean,
But on a cruise ship, though, that's I found sometimes that wouldn't that be a bit too? Wouldn't you
well,
feel?
the thing is, I mean, I hated cruise ships when we were
Yeah,
traveling because we'd be on the island and 500 demanding, idiotic people would come and they want pizza on like East Island. I'm like, really? But if it let me travel and I earned a living,
mm.
I'm going to consider it. But I can't. I mean, I need to work for, well, I think like everyone, I need to work until I'm 820. So, especially the way the economy is going. Oh
So
my God.
yeah, well, we better find a job that we love, hey?
Mhm.
So,
Yes.
how is it over there in terms of the economy? And are you going through sort of crisis like we are, or yeah,
Nothing worse than yours. Um, I mean, our economy wasn't robust to start with.
yeah,
We have probably quite an incompetent government with a hell of a lot of corruption, and we have massive problems with electricity. We
right,
sometimes, for weeks on end, have no electricity for 6 hours a day,
wow.
and that's been going on for months. So, but yeah,
What do you
it's.
do then if you're having to work over?
I've got a UPS,
Right,
and luckily invested in it about 4 or 5 years ago because now you pay triple the price because there's such a crisis. So it holds my Wi-Fi up and my computer up. The rest is it. Sometimes I'm working in darkness. I'm just using the light from the computer, but which is also another reason why I was trying to get work outside of South Africa.
yeah,
And I'm also looking to India because a lot of Indian people want speaking skills plus English skills. So
yeah.
um, that's also a viable option that I'm looking at.
It makes it so liberating in a way when you can see the perspective from outside of your own country, outside of your own town, outside of your own village, and to say, well, actually, we are fortunate enough that we could go and live wherever we want to, and we kind of sometimes do keep ourselves a bit small, don't we? And perhaps, you know,
You know what I think, Amanda? Sometimes when you have so much choice, it becomes paralyzing. I could move to the UK. I could go and work on a cruise ship. I could move to the countryside. And because it's so open, it's harder to. I mean, I found when I was in America, like you'd go to the shop and you wanted a pink t-shirt, there'd be 429 different pink t-shirts, and I could never buy one. Whereas if I go to the shop here, this shop will have two, that will have one, that will have three, and I always land up buying one. And I find so much choice. Like in America, when you go and buy cereal or bread,
mm,
who needs 57 different loaves of bread in their
no.
life? Do you know what I mean? Like just a good old brown whole wheat will do. But yeah, and I think that's why I think we sometimes keep ourselves small because it's just so big. And there's so many things we could do. And there are so many places we could go.
Yeah.
But I do think we're privileged because there are a lot of people, especially in Africa, who don't have a setup like I have sitting talking to you, who couldn't just jump on a plane and say, well, I'm going to go to the Greek islands for 3 months. Did I tell you that story?
No.
So it's a long one. I'll give you the very short version. So when we lived in the little village called New Bethesda, and we were open 7 days a week from 7 in the morning until we closed at night. And for the first 3 years, I never had a single day off because it was my life. It was my social life. It was my life. And it was actually in my house. So it wasn't work. But I used to save, if someone paid with a 200 Rand note, I used to keep those aside. And one day I counted them all and I had enough to go on holiday to Greece. And And I was going to go on a whole bunch of, well, I did go on a whole bunch of Greek cooking courses, but I had friends from Cape Town who were going to come and run it in winter because we had guests and da da da. So we fly to Greece, and on about the third day there, the friend, it was a couple, Louis had a heart attack. And so his wife phoned me in a big panic to say they've got to get to Cape Town. And I said to her, just go. I'll make a plan. So I'm sitting in Santorini, one of the most beautiful places in the world, thinking, oh my God, now what do I do? Do I fly back and then lose all my bookings here? Do I try and cancel all the guests and the restaurant, close it for 3 months? And I've just spent 3 years building it up. And you know how you, at one moment you go, okay, I'll fly back. The next moment you go, no, I'll close it. And then the next morning, I got an email from a lady in the village, and the whole village had had a meeting and decided they would run the restaurant for 3 months and the guest house while I had a holiday. And you know, it's that thing about people have got your back in a small village, you know. And it wasn't like, I can understand if someone's in hospital and people are helping them. I'm lying on the beach drinking pina colada, looking at Greek gods, and everyone's running my restaurant. I'm like, geez, I'll stay away longer, you know.
Oh,
And that,
that's beautiful.
and that was the first time I really experienced the reason why people stay in small villages is because people really have your back, unlike a city. I mean, I'm born and bred in Joburg. I'm a city girl, but yeah, I must tell you how much I cried that day and the next day. And then when we came back and my restaurant had made money, and people were a bit pissed off when I came back because quite a lot of retired
They
people, and
liked it. Yeah.
they loved it. And I'm like, look, they were making their own favorite cakes to sell and their own recipes. And I was like, hey, this is so, yeah, it was an amazing experience that the goodness of people.
Yeah. Lovely. Oh, that's a really beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that. Brought a tear to my eye. So,
Oh, amazing.
I just, and part of what I do in these talks as well is just to ask people how are you? So how are you feeling? Are you somebody that I can connect in with, really understand how you're feeling in this particular moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have done a lot of growing up, a lot of self introspection, and got to the point in my life where I understand where I am is directly as a consequence of my choices. So I'm no longer ever a victim. Um, and I really do touch base. I meditate before I go to bed. I do a journal. I'm actually on Mind Valley doing the De Silva method at the moment. I don't know if you know it.
Oh, yes, yes, yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so I'm actually, especially I think because it's a Friday afternoon, I'm feeling I'm feeling good. I'm looking forward to the weekend. Looking forward to just like, and then excited about next week as well. So yeah, I'm good.
When
I'm
I
good.
spoke to you
Yeah.
earlier this week, you were saying that it was all a bit chaotic. Have you managed to?
So we're on the final things. The workers are finished. We've just spent up until this started carrying all the furniture upstairs, and the last thing to go is this computer, and then
And you're
so
done.
and it looks amazing. They've done a great job.
Oh, brilliant. Because you had a burst pipe, right? Upstairs, yeah.
Yeah, and then we had to lift the carpet, and then they had to rescreed it, and it was noise. And now we're like half an hour away from just being back to having a beautiful life.
Brilliant. And a lovely weekend.
Yes, I can't wait.
Well, I will let you step into that lovely weekend. Thank you very much for coming today and sharing all that. And uh, yeah, the evidence is in the way you speak, and absolutely I highly recommend anybody book up with you because you've been very helpful in terms of
Oh,
presenting for me. So I really appreciate that.
please let me
And
know how it went on Monday, how it goes on
I
Monday.
will do. Absolutely, absolutely will do.
Thank you so
So
much for having me. It was nice. It was
good.
great.
Thank you. And I love meeting your doggy too.
He was busy eating a tissue when I shouted at him, but anyway.
Okay.
Perfect. Have a good weekend, Amanda, and I will see you and we'll chat shortly.
And absolutely. Thank you.